Hello, everybody. Welcome to Horror Movie Yearbook. I am Tim.
I'm Willie.
Willie, we're back.
We're back.
We are the
Boys are back in town.
We made the strategic move as a horror podcast to take October off.
Yeah, real smart. Well, look, I think we were both devastated by the fact that our last episode did not record properly.
That was a bummer.
That was a bummer. And then I am remodeling my kitchen, and it's a lot, and it's taking a lot of time and energy. And you recently took a trip.
Yeah, I was gone.
And
for
it just
over a week. Yeah,
we both didn't have the availability or the energy, I don't think, to make it happen. But we're back.
Yes.
We're back.
And this looks to be recording right now. The red light is on.
You'll know if you're hearing it.
And the timer is working, which I swear happened last time, but we'll see. So, so good.
Yes.
We're back. Yes. And we are back. What was I going to do? Oh, let me kick this bad boy off. Go listen to the Game Nerds, by the way.
Ye old Game Nerds.
The old Game Nerds. What are they talking about? They're talking about games, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Sadly, Westworld FM will not be talking about Westworld again.
Westworld got the axe.
Got the axe.
Yeah.
And during the great Warner Brothers, what is it? Warner Brothers merged with what?
Discovery.
Discovery.
Yes.
The purge is happening. It's terrible.
Yeah, this is the real purge, right? This is
it.
Hopefully, this is as close as we get. Yeah. It's just a bunch of shows on HBO Max.
We can live with that.
Yes. But yeah, go check out the Midwest Game Nerds. They are going to be talking about Marvel Snap. Oh
yeah, the new Marvel game. Yeah.
The free-to-play game. Yeah.
Talking with my neighbor about Marvel Snap today.
Yeah.
He's been playing it, and he's a big fan of Bishop.
Who isn't?
Right?
Who's not a big fan of Bishop? Who was your go-to in the X-Men video game?
Which game though?
The arcade, the arcade one.
We're talking like the old school classic, Welcome to Die. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
I was an Iceman guy. Was Iceman in that?
No, he's not in it.
What was Iceman in then?
What are you talking about? Wait, what game is Iceman in?
Just a second.
Iceman's not playable in any of these games.
Was Iceman not playable in the arcade game?
No. The roster was Cyclops, Wolverine, Storm, Dazzler, Nightcrawler, and Colossus.
Was Iceman never playable in any of these games?
He was playable in one of the Game Gear games. I think that's it. Did you play a Game Gear
Madness
game?
in Murder World? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Play that?
Maybe. Yeah, you're right.
Are you sure it wasn't Colossus? And you maybe as a child you thought it was Iceman because he turns silver?
I'm gonna go back and delete this part off the. Just keep my X-Men cred. Anyway, continue.
No, you're fine.
You were talking about who was your go-to then? Actually, yes.
I used to, as a kid, it was Nightcrawler for sure.
Okay,
that was the go-to.
You know what? It was the Game Gear game because I remember the cover.
Dude, so you weren't lying.
So I wasn't.
You weren't
completely
lying.
Off. Yeah.
Yeah, you just said the wrong game. I'm like, wait a second, Iceman. Yeah, no, he was playable in that. Yeah, it was Nightcrawler for sure. But I like playing as Colossus and I like playing as Cyclops too. I like them both. I like Colossus because when he hits a special, he goes for no reason, and it's really cool. Yeah, he screams bloody murder.
And then he gets sad about it, Ilyana.
Yeah, of course. Ilyana.
That's a special move. Is being sad. Always thought it was Colossus. They turned him into an atheist at one point in the comics, right?
Yeah.
Classic. I always thought that was weird because haven't the X-Men literally been to heaven in the comics?
Yeah. Remember when he joined the Acolytes for a while?
Yes, and isn't Ilyana half the time the queen of hell?
Yeah.
Always thought
interesting.
Being an atheist there was a weird choice by Colossus.
This is trick. This is not real.
Yeah, I guess it's still plausible. So, what else was I gonna say? So yeah, Westworld FM. Maybe they'll be back someday to wrap.
I hope so. You know.
Yeah. Maybe what they'll do is they'll do one of those remember Twitter might be dying at any moment, thank God.
But it's for the best.
Remember when they used to do those season 8 Next Generation like things or like
Yeah.
season whatever of Seinfeld.
They can
where
do season 5 of Westworld.
They can do like a podcast where they just come up with stories for
That's excellent.
season 5 podcast. So
I like that idea actually.
yeah.
Um,
Hopefully they do too.
yeah, that'd be fun. Did you hear like a ton of people's Twitters are getting hacked? By the way,
A ton of people's Twitters are getting hacked.
because like
Half
the
of-
security team is gone.
There's a bunch of fake accounts running around. It's complete madness. It could die at any moment.
I think it's going to.
I think it needs to. I think we need to. I'm hoping like with all the stuff with Facebook and Twitter now, this social media stuff was a mistake.
Yeah.
And it's time we recognize that and we move on and we do what we should have always done, which is just go to our own little corners of niches and find like-minded people and just talk to them for a while instead of just trying to interact with each other.
Because absolutely.
Nobody wants that. so yes, I did see that. That's great. So that's what we've been up to. What I've been up to, I went to Halloween Horror Nights with my brother.
Yes.
In Orlando. We went on Halloween, which was quite fun.
That is delightful.
I was like, this is the first time I've ever been. I had always wanted to go.
Yeah.
I had a trip planned.
That's a bit of a bucket list item, right?
Yeah, I had a trip planned a couple years ago. I don't know when I'm going to be able to go back. But I had a trip planned a couple of years ago, and then COVID hit. So I wasn't able to go, but my brother and I went this time, and he went with me, and it was a ton of fun. And the crowd there was super cool. It kind of felt like going to a horror convention, except it was just people wanting to go to haunted houses and stuff.
Yeah.
We went to this show called like Fire. It was like a fire show, like they threw around fire.
That's sweet.
This was sweet, and they made sure to warn you up front, like this is a theme park, but it's 11:30 at night. They're like, this is an adult entertainment show, and boy, let me tell you something here for a theme park show. It's a little racy at times.
Oh yeah,
it's quite good, I like it. Yeah, but yeah, they were doing like fire, but like it was all a bunch of like kind of sexy dancing. They had a bunch of leather and fire and like dancing to 2000s rock. This show ruled. I wish I remember what it was called, but it was awesome.
One time I went to my dad's band used to play every like Thursday night at this bar in Detroit. They were like the Thursday night band, right? And so he was like, real friendly with the owners and stuff. And I remember like we went and saw a concert downtown, and then he goes, "Hey, I gotta stop by the bar to talk to the guy who owned it." And he goes, "You want to come?" I'm like, "Yeah, I always wanted to go." And I was a kid, so I technically wasn't even allowed in, but like I was able to get in.
Yeah.
And like we walk up to the front door of the bar, and they've got the marquee saying who's playing that night. And my dad goes, "Oh no!" Like he picked the worst. It was the Genitorturers. He's like, "Oh no."
So this was not as hardcore, I'm sure, as the Genitorturers. Yes.
No. I'm 15 and I walk in and it's like,
what were they doing? Do you remember?
Yeah, the singer.
I assume you could not forget.
No, the singer, if you can call him that, had a pierced penis. That was out. It was out.
You can do that. Well, I guess no one's stopping you. I guess. Yeah.
I mean, who's calling?
If you're going to see the Genitorturers,
you're not gonna. And a lady, I think, blew fire onto the piercing, which had some sort of... And he was swinging his flaming penis in circles. It was pretty cool, actually. It was sweet. I wouldn't do it, but it was cool.
So he helicopter dicked.
A flaming like barbell that was through his penis.
That's kind of rad.
It was sweet.
This was called a Halloween Nightmare Fuel.
Okay, it was not the Genitorturers.
Yeah,
okay.
it was not
brought to you by the Genitorturers.
Yeah, and they would play like Rob Zombie and
I was going to ask
Romance.
Some Dragula.
Yeah, Dragula, My Chemical Romance. I believe Avenged Sevenfold was played at one point.
Yeah, did you throw up the horns?
Oh, obviously.
Yeah.
No, I mostly just sat there and went, "Oh man, everybody here's way younger than me."
Do they even know these songs?
Right. Yeah, kids know everything, but
yeah, it's pretty cool.
And you could tell it was like the last night of the show because like there were people like they seemed like workers from the park that were there. It was kind of cool because they were like into it and they knew all the stuff that was coming.
That's sweet.
Yeah, they were like, "This show will cover the dark desires."
Yeah.
Anyway, my brother wrote in. We were gonna record. The plan was I was gonna record like a podcast for the Patreon.
Yeah.
Once again, that fell through with Greg because we were very busy and
everything's kind of a hot mess.
yes, totally. But he wanted to send in his top 5. I asked for his top 5 houses here from Halloween Horror Nights.
The houses, you mean like the different themed park areas?
Yeah,
like...
so they do a mixture of licensed houses. So you'll get stuff like Halloween, and the Black Phone had a house there, but they also do original houses, and they're both cool.
That's awesome.
Here's his top 5. One was called Fiesta de Chupacabras, which was a Chupacabra house, and you got it was a Chupacabra chasing around the house. Basically, he'd pop out and scare you.
Was he cool?
Yeah, he was very cool, and you could kind of see, but like the dude in front of us was, because he was getting, the thing about haunted houses is that the timing has to be right, and he was getting timed perfectly because he was just like
But then you guys didn't get hit as hard, which is nice.
We didn't get hit as hard, and we got to watch him get hit with every scare.
Dude, that's the perfect.
He's got number 4. He had that number 5. Number 4, he had the Halloween house. I will put this a little higher.
This is like OG 78 Halloween.
78 Halloween. Yeah. I watched a couple videos too, and I had heard from a couple, because people go, there are vloggers and stuff that go every year to these shows, and this is a repeat house. So they were like, it's good, but it's a repeat. Like, we've been on it. I'd never been. So this was brand new to me. I don't know, man. This was he says they seem to have timing down perfectly. He brought up the little kid, Michael Myers. He pops out at you inside the first thing, and
you get to go into the Myers house.
You get to go in the Myers house, so
it's pretty rad.
This was it was really awesome.
Yeah,
because they do a good job, a decent enough job for a haunted house recreating it. But the Myers kids scared the crap out of me.
Scared you?
It was probably one of the biggest scares I had the whole time.
That's awesome.
His number 3, there was one called, let me find the title of this one, because my brother calls it the Fisherman one. Dead Man's Pier Winter's Wake, and it was about like a fisherman who's been lost at sea. And what I remember about this one too, the costumes, my brother brings it up. There was a ghost lady as well playing violin. And she screamed at the end of her. Sounds like she screamed at you, which made my brother laugh. But the sets were amazing in this. Like, you felt at one point like you were on a ship.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was really cool. Number 2, there was one called The Horrors of Blumhouse, and it was Freaky and the Black Phone. So the first house it was kind of like 2 shorter houses.
Like mini.
Yeah. So the first house, and he brings it up. My brother brings it up here too, but no, I'm just kind of speaking for him in some ways. But first house was freaky, and it's kind of just like normal jump scares based on the movie Freaky.
Yeah,
it's kind of like so. And then they get you into the Black Phone house, and it's really, really good.
Yeah,
because the scares, it's Ethan Hawke. He's jumping out at you.
Nice.
But
are you in the room from the movie?
You're in the room from the movie. At one point, you see him sitting in the chair like he does in the movie. Have you seen the movie?
Or whatever.
Yeah. He's in the movie, and the scare actor is kind of just sitting there. And he doesn't move. He doesn't scare you, but yeah, it's really good.
That's awesome.
But it works really well because the freaky one kind of sets you up for the later one.
Sure.
And his number 1 was one called, and it was also my favorite original house. It was called Bugs Eaten Alive. And what this was is it was like kind of like
sounds sweet.
It's like a 1950s theme. And you walk into like kind of like an infomercial style, like you walk into a home of the future, and it's been infested by these giant bugs, and it goes terribly wrong. And like it's not so much, it's scary because you get the pop outs and stuff, but it's also like the theme of it is really cool because it feels like kind of like an old 1950s throwback movie. And it's more just like super fun than it is.
That's cool.
Kind of like scary, and it was kind of a neat thing to go. But just one, there were a couple, like The Weeknd had a haunted house there, like the musical act, The Weeknd. That was cool. I didn't really get it. But they did have a scare actor dancing around like The Weeknd. That was kind of fun. There was a Universal Monsters one, which was Dracula, the Mummy, and the Wolfman. That was kind of my biggest disappointment because it was like it ended with a to be continued. Apparently you had to go to Hollywood you had to go to the other house to see how it ended. But like, we were there on Halloween. Why don't you just show how it ended? It ends that day. Like, what the hell? But that was probably my biggest disappointment.
Yeah.
And then there was one called Spirits of the Coven that I really liked as well, where you were, it was a bar, 1920s Prohibition. You were kind of in like a speakeasy, and you're surrounded by all these witches who take over the bar.
Man, how long was this whole thing?
So there are 10 different houses.
Right.
And each house was probably like 3 or 4 minutes apiece.
Okay.
To walk through. Well, probably 3 to 5, I would say.
Okay.
So we got, and I will recommend this to anybody looking to go. If you have the money, of course, bump up to the Express Pass, unless you're a local and you
so
can
you can
go
just
there.
jump right into.
You could. What we had the Express Pass. It was called like the Fear. I don't remember what it's called. Just type in Express Pass. But I do recommend it if you only have one day to go and you're trying to hit every house like we were, because we were able to hit every house with time to spare. So
what was the pricing on that? If you don't mind me asking, was it astronomical or was it?
I want to say it was like $70 or $80 for
that's not that
each.
bad.
So, I mean,
I don't think.
Yeah,
personally,
and that's on top of the ticket price. But
that's for that experience. I think that's probably.
We kind of figure we don't know when we're going to get back to this,
right?
And we're like,
no, that's not. I mean,
like I said, if you're a local or somebody who has a couple days at the park, you could hit both of them. But this way, like we got to fit it all.
I expected it to be more expensive than that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So there you go. I had a blast. It was a ton of fun. My brother also had a blast, and my brother, he's not the best at jump scares.
Yeah, I think he might be like he needs to reassess this though.
He's getting into it.
I think he's getting into it now.
Yeah, he's getting into it.
I think he's evolving.
Yeah. So
he's facing his fears.
So a ton of fun Halloween Horror Nights. Well, we had some more feedback, didn't we?
Yeah, we did get an email. It's been a while since we recorded, so I haven't seen this, but we got an email from Alan K. And he said, "Salutations, travelers." Yes. What a great way to acknowledge.
What is greetings and salutations from?
Greetings and salutations.
Is that Demolition Man?
No, that's it might be. There's some great stuff in like Joy Feelings is from Demolition Man.
Yeah.
Like you inspired Joy Feelings and those around you. Greetings. Yeah, is that from Demolition Man?
I'm gonna look it up while you read this up.
He did say he was sad that the Hellraiser / Halloween Ends podcast did not record because he had just watched both of them, so he wanted to hear our thoughts, which is very, very kind, and we're sorry too. You will hear some thoughts on Halloween Ends.
Yeah.
It will not be quite probably as like in depth as it would have been on the previous one that we talked about, but
yes,
we'll get some thoughts out there. Hellraiser says he enjoyed it. There's enough casual sex in the first 10 minutes of the film to let you know this will be a good horror film. Said he enjoyed the original older movies, even though they show their age a little bit, and that so to him it detracts from the immersion a bit. He thinks the new film nails it. 2-hour runtime felt fine to him, felt like the perfect amount of film for the movie. He said watching it on the LG C1 with a Sonos system makes the movie pop.
Oh, okay.
Getting fancy with it, Alan. Love it. I got a Vizio soundbar.
Yeah, I had to watch it quietly with the closed captioning on because my wife was asleep.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, we watched it muted practically. Our 4-year-old is like in the next room over, so sadly. But that sounds rad as hell. Visuals are really something else. Hearing whispering behind and around me gave me the chills. That's sweet. Wonderful sound design. Casting work for me. You don't always need to put a name to movie for it to work. Let's see. He thought that Odessa Azion kills it as the lead, and you really feel for her struggles at every turn. Haven't read Hellbound Heart, so seeing the creation of a Cenobite was fascinating. Really want to know what the god is and what the realm is like. Definitely left me wanting more from the series. That's awesome. I'm glad he really dug that. That's cool. Yeah. I liked it too. I did.
Yeah, we both liked it, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'd be down for a sequel. We all agreed on that, I think.
My review was not horny enough because
the
casual sex was front loaded for me.
You wanted more horny throughout the film.
Yes.
I don't disagree.
Well, I'm a man who has recently watched The Dark Desires of the Universal Studios Fire show.
You've experienced the pleasures.
Yes.
Halloween Ends, on the other hand, didn't really hit home for me. Started strong with the cold open, went downhill after that. Pacing is so slow, it left me bored. Inferred at the end of Halloween Kills that Michael can slay entire groups of people attacking him, but yet it ends. He's a little bitch. He lasts no more than 5 minutes with Laurie this time around. And in the first two films, nothing supernatural is implied to my knowledge, but it ends, am I to believe that Michael either transfers his powers and he gets his power from killing people. That left me confused. Feels like Michael is in the movie for maybe 50 minutes overall. Really unsure as to why Corey is the main antagonist in this film. Feels more like a teen drama with the odd bit of slashing and dashing. Complete lack of plot depth or explanation leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Bitterly disappointed. Be interested to know your thoughts. You will hear some of our thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I want to recommend something too. if Alan is interested, or if anybody's interested, because I agree with a lot of what he's saying about the character depth and the plot depth with the movie. But I do want to recommend, and then this isn't necessarily an endorsement of the movie that exists, but the novelization is really.
Does it have the original ending that we talked about?
I don't believe so.
No,
I'd have to
same one.
Yeah, I think it's got a very similar one too. Okay. Yeah, but it adds a ton of depth, especially to Allison and why she would fall for someone like Corey, which is a leap that I, even on a second watch, I took to a little more, but not completely.
Okay.
And I think it's just because it feels like. Yeah, it feels like there's something. It feels like two movies going on at once. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about it a little bit more later. But both that and the Kills novelization are very good. I haven't read the original novelization.
Okay.
But they do a great job if you want to seek it out.
That's cool.
Of adding depth to character because they're written by someone who co-wrote the screenplay as well.
Love me a good novelization.
Yeah, check them out. Honestly, you would really enjoy them, I think.
Okay.
Both, yeah, all three probably. I'm sure the first one is good too.
I'll check them out. P.S. What did you think? What do you think of Liv Morgan being cast in Chucky? Sure, why the heck not?
I just watched that episode.
Was it fun?
Yeah, it was fun. So she is. I don't want to spoil it for Alan if he watches the Chucky shows in season 2, and it's still a ton of fun. But they are very much going with the tone of Seed of Chucky.
That's what I've heard. It's pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy. I tend to like it. The first one I thought found a good balance between kind of goofy Chucky and more scary serious. This one's gone full Seed. Glenn and Glenda are back.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Is it Billy Boyd?
No, it's not Billy Boyd. And the way it can't really be Billy Boyd the way they do it. But yeah, you've got the big buff Chucky. The Liv Morgan cameo is fun, and it's very wink wink. Nudge, nudge, because Chucky had not appeared in the episode at all. So they needed a Chucky moment. I'll say that much.
Okay. He also asked what we thought of Bray Wyatt's return. I don't know. I didn't see it. I'll be honest. I'm not sure.
I know. I didn't see it either.
Okay.
I've been a little bit not watching.
I haven't watched wrestling a lot lately at all.
Yeah, I've been watching.
By a lot, I mean in the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I have not watched WWE in a while.
Yeah.
I didn't think I even saw the Bray return. Maybe I'll try to catch up.
I'm playing catch up on AEW a little bit right now, but even that I've fallen behind a bit because it's just...
Yeah.
Once again, the kitchen consumes me, so...
Well, that sounds like Bray.
Yes.
You sound like Bray. You're becoming the Fiend.
I am.
It sounded great.
Yeah.
It sounded really cool. So
cool. Thank you, Ellen, for the feedback. Really
yes, thank you, Alan.
Yes. Thank you.
And read the book of the movie you didn't like very much.
Yeah, read the book. You'll really like it.
I watched the movie twice and read the novelization, and I still don't know if I like it that much.
We'll talk about it.
We will.
That's that. We're closing out with that, correct?
We're closing out with that because we have to talk about something else real quick.
Let's do it. This is big.
So, on the last episode, the very last episode we recorded, I believe, we talked about what the hell we thought was going on with the Friday the 13th franchise.
Yeah.
And then we took a month off.
There's been a lot of weird, to call it rumblings is generous, but for this series, it's rumblings.
Yes.
And
it turns out there was something going on with the Friday the 13th franchise.
Yes.
We were texting each other leading up to this too. We were texting each other Larry Zerner tweets.
Yes.
That's going to be, when Twitter dies, that's going to be the worst thing is how am I going to keep up with Larry Zerner and his legal mind?
That's true.
So then it hit while I was out of town, while we stopped recording, the news hit that Bryan Fuller of Hannibal, Pushing Daisies, he was a showrunner on Hannibal and Pushing Daisies. He started Star Trek Discovery. I don't know how much of his original vision made it into.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, he was a showrunner for a little bit. That's kind of how his recent career has been. He has done the Queer for Fear documentary that I need to watch on Shudder that I've heard is really, really good.
Okay.
It's a documentary series, kind of in the similar vein as horror noir.
Okay. Yep, I've heard of it.
Yep. So I need to check that out. But the news broke that he is going to be the showrunner, I guess, the executive producer So the original news story hit a day before the interview we're going to talk about, because I think the interview is kind of where the meat is.
Correct.
But you sent it to me, and it was basically there's going to be a Friday the 13th prequel series coming to Peacock
called Crystal Lake.
Oh, did it have the title?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it was going to be produced by A24
and Bryan Fuller,
and focused. The press release mentioned Mrs. Voorhees.
The events leading up to the
films.
So I sent that to you, and I showed it to Nikki right away because, like, here's my thing. My emotions with it were like a roller coaster because it was like, oh my God, something's happening with Friday the 13th. Immediate excitement.
Yep. And
then I saw it, and I think my excitement outweighed my actual critical thinking on it a little bit. And then when I showed it, I showed it to Nikki, and I texted you, and I didn't hear back from you right away because you were like on vacation. And I showed it to Nikki, and she's like, "That sounds like a dumb idea." She's like, "What's the story there?" And I was like, "Oh, man, okay." And then like you texted me back, and you were like, "Yeah, not really what I wanted, but you know, I'm happy to hear something." And I was like, "I think they're right. This is not what I want." And so you guys brought me back down to earth a little bit, which is good.
We kind of pitched something like this.
Yes.
Yeah, on the podcast, something similar like this. Yeah.
Yep. But so I was a little bit,
Yeah. Well, I guess if you pitch to me, if you sit me down and you pitch to me A24 Peacock streaming series Friday the 13th, I'm like, that sounds like a parody of what I want.
Well, it does, because A24 is and when I think of A24, it's about as far removed as I want the tone to be
from a Friday the 13th movie. And there are plenty of A24 movies I like.
Absolutely.
But they have a certain tone, they have a certain brand.
And that's not what I want from Friday the 13th.
Nope.
When I think of a Peacock streaming series, that is not the format I want, even remotely, for
and that's not even necessarily like Peacock.
It's streaming series.
Yes.
And then when you think about, like, it's going to basically, if you're going by that, it's not going to be Jason related, essentially. Like, it's not going to have the thing I really want to see back. I go, what are we doing here? Like, I mean, I'm happy to see the franchise, but anyway. But then the next day or a couple days after, this interview came out with Bryan Fuller
with Fangoria
via Fango, and this has changed things a bit, and I think it's made people a little bit more.
The interview is with Scott Wampler, to credit there, and it's you can find it at Fangoria.com. Just Fangoria, Bryan Fuller.
This interview does feel like a little bit of damage control, right?
It felt like a very good idea, yes. Yeah, or it felt like something that, they had planned, and then they were way more confident in the press release than they should have been. What's the backstory, though, behind... let's get into it here, actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just read the Bryan Fuller quotes, because it's not a very long interview.
So you're Bryan Fuller. Okay, I'll be Scott Wampler. No, I'm just kidding.
Because it's not a very long interview, and I'm going to stop after each one of his answers to these questions, and we can talk about it. The first one, it starts with him like making horse noises. So this
Excellent.
Is the first thing comes from, which characters and locations are you allowed to use? And he says, everything. We can use everything. We can go to hell. We can go to space. That's not to say that we will do those things. Although if we do go 10 seasons, I will be lobbying hard to go to space. I'll continue here. He says, A24 and Mark Toberoff, who is Victor Miller's lawyer, have beautifully and excruciatingly assembled all of the Friday the 13th rights. As a streaming series, we have the rights to do everything underneath the Friday the 13th umbrella. The movie rights are a completely different thing. They are tied up at New Line and are super, super messy, and we probably won't get them untangled anytime soon. But as far as us... chickens in the television industry roost, we have access to everything that the Friday the 13th has done up until this point. So there you go.
Beautiful.
Because that was the first thing we thought. I think we texted a little bit too, was
this is Victor Miller's project.
It feels like a compromise. It feels like, okay, we only have the rights to this.
Right.
But
it sounds like the TV rights are a totally different beast.
Yes.
And that some agreement has been worked out for the TV rights.
So Victor,
in some way.
Yeah. So it's A24 and Mark Toberoff, who is his lawyer, who I believe...
But I would think Sean Cunningham would have something to do with this.
I think Horror Inc. is involved. Horror Inc. is Sean Cunningham, right? But it's someone that's not Sean Cunningham that's in charge of Horror Inc. or whatever.
Yes.
So they are involved in this in some way.
Which is promising.
Yes, it is good.
I think.
So now
everybody wants to make money. I mean,
yes, and this can make money because he's he might get to it later in this interview. But let's look a little bit here. We can go to hell. We can go to space.
Love it.
We can do 10 seasons.
Let's go.
Some of the speculation I've heard on this show, and I want to see what you think, is that maybe they might be doing every season based on a movie, like kind of leading up or based around, because he has called it a pre-remakequel, I guess is what he's called it.
Yeah, I guess.
So the first season, I guess, would be based
follow
around
Pamela up until remaking the first movie, essentially.
Yeah, or maybe even following the characters, like the counselors from that movie, and doing what I'm thinking is kind of like a Lost flashback style thing.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. If they're doing that, then it's got to get to season 5. That's all I'm saying.
because
I need my Roy season.
Season 1. What I'm thinking is like season 1 could be the Pamela stuff, and then maybe Pamela will continue throughout the series. I mean, in different ways through visions, flashbacks with Jason.
Oh yeah, you can do a ton
as
of that.
Jason becomes kind of the killer.
So wouldn't you do like
So
combine 2, 3, 4 into like one season, essentially, purely because that.
Yeah, but do you want to? I kind of want a whole season
Of Sackhead.
Of Sackhead. So when do you bring in Tommy Jarvis though?
Right. I'm just thinking. Yeah, I'm just thinking of original movie timeline, but they could do whatever they want with this. Because 2, 3, and 4 take place a day each apart.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
So it could all be like one long, crazy day of just murder. But I don't know.
I'm trying to figure out what he's saying here. Because if he specifically says, if we do go 10 seasons, I will be lobbying to go to space. So that almost tells me he may be thinking something similar to what we're...
Maybe. Or maybe he's just thinking, he's just joking because it's the 10th movie and they went to space. So like,
yeah, if
we get that far, we're doing it too.
Yeah, I'm probably reading too much into this.
I don't know. I mean, who knows? It's fun to read into this stuff sometimes.
So what do you think? Yeah, so just on that, they have access to anything and everything Friday the 13th has done to this.
That's great. No, I'm happy. I mean, I didn't think they did, based on what I was seeing, based on my knowledge of the legal stuff that's been going on. It sounded to me like this was a Victor Miller using the rights he has.
Right.
But that limits them a lot. I mean, yes, I'm cool with the idea of a season or a miniseries of Mrs. Voorhees and kind of her origin story. I'm cool with that, but I don't want to watch seasons and seasons of her. I just don't. To me, that's not something I'm... Because eventually you're never... Eventually, you're going to start getting into like overly goofy bullshit where she's reading the Necronomicon and stuff, and I don't want to. I just don't want to see it. Like I just don't need it. I want to get.
Yeah.
I want to get to the meat and potatoes at some point.
I think the comparison point, you and I kind of.
Bates Motel.
Yeah. And I really like Bates Motel.
I've never seen the whole thing.
Okay, but it starts to like you were saying,
it gets ridiculous.
It starts to get a little long in the tooth.
Yeah.
And eventually you're like, and that's actually why I think the last season the best, because finally it felt like we're getting to an end point there.
Yep. Yeah.
They've pulled the trigger on it, and that's what I could see. But I want them to condense those 5 seasons, I think, of Bates Motel into one season here. Like I think you can do one season based around Pamela.
100%.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. And then from there, like I said, once you kill Pamela, which I assume might happen at the end of the first season, she can show up as like Jason's kind of guiding force.
You can keep that character.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and then I think you start to, over the next couple seasons, if you can get them, build the Jason character into the iconic, hockey mask wearing monster that we all want to see, right?
Yep.
That would make sense.
So I'm going to rapid fire these answers next, because this pertains to the prequel thing that both you and I kind of cringed at in the press release. Yeah. He says, I don't think I'm allowed to just say yes, say yet, but I would say it's less a prequel series than a pre-remakequel series. And then he asks, can you describe what that means? And Fuller says, no, not on the record, I can't. And then Wampler asks, will Jason be in it? And Fuller says, I wouldn't count Jason out. I think over the course of the series, you will see many familiar manifestations of Jason. Sackhead Jason and Hockey Mask Jason, right?
Probably yes, and probably
And
like fantasy creepy little boy rotting in the lake. Jason.
Yep.
Roy. That's fun.
Roy. I think Fuller might be interested in doing a Roy season.
That seems like Fuller. Don't leave the series until you give us Roy. Give us the Roy that we've been waiting for.
David Gordon Green did.
You know what he would do though? What Fuller would do though, if he's a fan of that movie or knew that it had its fans, he would make like an episode of the show about like a copycat killer.
Yeah. You do that, that kind of standalone episode that shows
episode
the
kind of like
the Lost episode with Paulo and Nikki, right?
And I would love it.
Yeah, I love those episodes.
Yeah,
honestly,
I would love it.
What was another one that recently did that?
There's always been some good ones throughout the course of TV. There's been bad ones too.
Yes,
but there's been good ones. Yeah, I'm trying to think of examples, but I can't.
Blanking right now too. It's all right.
It's getting late. I mean,
Honestly, the Chucky show just did one. We talked a little bit about it, but the Chucky show, the Liv Morgan one that we mentioned earlier, was a murder mystery show with the entire cast of Bound. I'm so happy that USA has just given Don Mancini a bunch of money to just do whatever he wants.
So sweet.
He's reunited the cast of Bound.
So sweet.
Meg Tilly showed up. So this is Scott Wempler asked Bryan Fuller about the reactions, and Bryan Fuller says, excuse me, the reactions I saw yesterday were very positive, but yeah, there's always going to be a collection of naysayers. That's nothing new to me. We were kind of naysaying.
A little bit.
I encountered this when Hannibal was announced. Some of these tweets look like copy and paste jobs from 10 years ago. So part of me is sort of leaning back with my arms across my chest saying, wait and see. And the other part of me is more like, well, folks like that may not have to make a living with their imaginations, and what they can imagine must be very disappointing to them. Very sassy answer there. I like that. Yeah. Very snarky.
Get him, Fuller.
I'm going to admit this. This might get me kicked off the Midwest Podcast Network here, because I know I've tried multiple times to get into Hannibal. I can't do it.
I tried once, and I also, it wasn't for me.
I respect Bryan Fuller a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
And I recognize it's a very good show.
It wasn't for me. Yeah.
I couldn't get into it.
Yeah.
And I have not seen Dead Like Me either.
No.
So I'm coming into this whole thing knowing Bryan Fuller is a very talented man.
But not knowing any of his...
Not really knowing a lot of his...
I don't either, so...
Yeah, I did not watch...
You and I are in the same boat.
American
we
Gods.
both get kicked off.
What else did his... I'm familiar with his work, his TV work mostly.
Yes.
But I do know that, and I've seen in interviews, and I have seen his Mrs. Voorhees Halloween costume. He dressed up as Mrs. Voorhees one year, yes.
Excellent.
And it's a very good costume. It's got the sweater and everything, and he's with somebody dressed as Ginny.
So he's a fan.
I do know he worked on Voyager and Deep Space Nine, which is a plus for me. But yeah, I haven't seen a ton of his work. So I recognize that. But I also I'm still a little bit leery of him because I'm still not 100% sure how great of a fit he is for what I want from the franchise. And there's a part of me hoping that this New Line thing is, I know it's apparently a mess. I hope we get a movie. I hope we get kind of like the Child's Play thing did a couple years back, where the TV series was announced while they made that remake that I wasn't really crazy about. But you know what I mean? I hope they make a straightforward Jason movie, and then this exists as well, because this could be great, honestly. But
you know what? I've come back around to where I'm like, hey, I'll be happy to see some Friday the 13th content at this point. To be honest with you,
yeah,
that's where I'm at. So. I'm just excited that the franchise is doing something. Even if it's not necessarily what I would have done, I guess. I'm excited for it. So, yeah.
I think the thing with Hannibal, for me, isn't it big about food? Isn't it a big show for foodies? Don't foodies love Hannibal?
Yeah, well, they photograph food very alluringly in the show, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I don't really give a shit about food.
I just want to eat it.
This is where I admit,
Yeah.
I've no offense to foodies, but I eat to
I like A&W cheese curds a lot.
Yeah, I eat because I need to. It's something
That's where
I
I'm
have
at,
to
too.
do.
Yeah.
So I'm not prepared.
I mean, I like food that I like.
Oh, and I like good food. I'll if someone serves me something that's if I get a good, nice, fancy steak,
You're like, this is great.
I'm like, this is wonderful. But
But at the end of the day, you're like, I just want to not die.
yes.
I'm doing this because I'm being forced to.
Right.
By my body.
Right.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Here's a nice story from Brian. He says, I'll tell you something very personal, and I may have shared this with you previously. I know part of this story has been out in the public discourse. As a public figure as I am, which is not very, but some people will have heard this. I read a Friday the 13th synopsis when I was maybe 9 or 10 in Famous Monsters magazine. This is a few years before I saw the movie. It became a story I'd tell my friends around campfires, which is also where I got my first taste of storytelling and the thrall an audience can fall under when it's hearing a story as captivating as that of Friday the 13th. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So there was that, combined with the fact that at the same time I was working with special needs kids. I was hyper aware of the challenges of parenting special needs children. One of the kids I sat with during most of that volunteer work, his mother simply couldn't handle him. He was amazing and unique and had a different sort of intelligence, but he was also nonverbal. His mother couldn't get far enough away from him. And so when I read about Friday the 13th and saw the links Pamela Voorhees would go to for her special needs child, I found myself in this Venn diagram of influences, and I fell in love with the series. I fell in love with that first movie. I fell in love with the second movie. I fell in love with all of them. Well, maybe not Jason Goes to Hell, but I'm not mad at it. At any rate, I feel that I'm in a unique space to tell this story and to make sure it is loved and cared for appropriately.
Hey, he didn't shit on part 5, so we're good.
He pretty much falls in line with what we think of the franchise.
Yeah,
which is we don't like Jason Goes to Hell that much.
Good, but the rest of them,
we're gonna watch it.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm not gonna say no to it.
We watch every one of these. Yeah. This is the franchise where I do not get mad at a single entry. There are entries in Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street where I get mad at
because they suck.
Resurrection and that remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, I get mad when I'm watching those.
They're bad, yeah. Yeah, I don't like part.
Oh, and Freddy's dead.
That's a bad movie too. I don't like Freddy. I don't like 5 either.
Yeah, I'm not. 5 has some.
I don't get mad at it, but it's not good.
Yeah,
yeah. But Halloween, yeah, I've been pissed at Halloween before.
What do you think of that? So that's kind of. It seems like that's what he's hinting at least the first season of this movie being about Pamela and the link she will go to.
I'm cool with it. But we do need to. If it's going to be longer than a season, and who knows? I mean, I'm not going to get too overly, If it goes longer than a season, then we're going to need to eventually. I don't want. A lot of the times with these shows, these origin shows, look at Smallville, or it's geez, they're so hesitant to get to the end game, and it doesn't even have to be the end game. Just make it a natural like in this case it'd be Jason, hockey mask wearing Jason killing teenagers, but that shouldn't necessarily be the end game. That can just be part of the journey of the show.
Right.
I just hope that they don't go that route where it's holding back. Eventually you're going to have to get there, pay it off.
I'm hoping that because he is a fan of the franchise, that he understands this.
I hope so.
And I'm sure he does. And I'm hoping he delivers.
And then if he does understand this, he sticks around the show long enough to...
Yes, this is another problem with Bryan Fuller we've not addressed here, is that lately it seems he leaves very quickly from some of these shows.
He doesn't stick around.
He did not stick around for Discovery for very long. Star Trek Discovery, American Gods. I think he left, after the first season? Mm-hmm. He's been attached to a lot. Yep. So fingers crossed.
Hopefully.
So
I'm looking forward to it.
Here's what's giving me hope, though, on that front and some of the what we want to see front. So only a couple more here. But this one is, he says, yes, one of the things that's super exciting and one of the many reasons we went with Peacock is that they blew every other competitor out of the water. There was a bidding war on this, and they came in strong and gave us a full season commitment with a huge penalty if we don't do a second season. So it's kind of a 2-season commitment, but really just the first season commitment. We're going to have roughly 5 times the per episode budget that we had on Hannibal.
Wow.
So here's what's giving me hope here. Peacock is not lighting the world on fire.
No.
As far as streaming services go. From what I can tell, none of them seem to be.
No.
They all seem to be big money losers right now, but I understand it's an investment for the future. But Peacock is on the lower end of these streaming services. Mm-hmm. What gives me hope a little bit on that front is Peacock is Universal. Universal has a history with horror movies. Mm-hmm. Universal also has a hit on there. Chucky's a hit right now on USA. Like, even on linear, like, cable television, like, a lot of people watch Chucky.
It was on Sci-Fi originally, right?
It's still on Sci-Fi. It airs on Sci-Fi USA, I think, simultaneously now.
Okay.
And then it hits Peacock next day, I think is how it goes. And it does pretty well. For even on the live versions last I checked. So it gives me hope. And also the money thing and the commitment tells me that they're kind of all in on this, and they kind of have to, because I don't know how many, because this seems like it's going to be a Peacock exclusive, and I cannot recall any Peacock exclusives that have like lit the world on fire here.
No.
So yeah, they kind of need something like this to be a hit. So
yeah, for sure.
Let's skip this one because he's just talking about money. So let's go to the last one. He's asked, Scott Wempler asks, how murderous is Crystal Lake going to be? It will be pretty murderous. I think we'll be dropping bodies every episode, and I think there's something about the build of that, as we are hopefully in for the long haul. I wasn't kidding. If we get 10 seasons, I'm going to make a concerted effort to find a way to rationally and dramatically and in some fashion go to space. I can't imagine it going 10 seasons, but I will put it out there that, I haven't gotten past laying out the first 3 seasons, honestly, so I suppose it's very easy for me to say if we get to 10 seasons, we're going to see. Wait and see. Yeah, we're going to space. We're going to space. Wait and see. So
this is all promising stuff. It sounds like, I mean, he's certainly passionate about it. It sounds like he's got the backing of Peacock, which is great. I mean, if he's got an idea for a 3-season run right now, that's good.
Any guesses on what the 3-season run is going to be? I think you may have hinted at what you think it might be.
I think it takes you through Tommy Jarvis killing Jason.
So you think he's going to do? I'm kind of in the same. I think the first season is going to be very Pamela,
and I think it'll end with Pamela being killed, and the reveal that Jason's still alive as a young boy.
So you think we're going to do each? So you think we're going to do each episode focus on a counselor she kills?
No, I think it's going to be flashbacks about her.
Okay, we're going to get more
as she's setting up killing these counselors.
So it's going to be So it's going to tell a story, and then we're going to jump forward to her killing the counselors.
Yeah, I think that it's going to take place during a remake of Friday the 13th 1, where she's going through and killing counselors.
Yeah.
As she's killing the counselors in those episodes, we're going to get flashbacks to what led her to this point.
Okay.
That's what I think it's going to be.
Yeah, and I think that...
So that's where you get the pre-remake whole thing, because the entire season is going to essentially be a remake of Friday the 13th Part 1, but it's also going to be a prequel that takes us back to build to the point that we've gotten to with Pamela having lost her mind. And it also explains his whole bodies will drop each episode, because it's going to be her actively killing throughout the course of the season. That's my thought.
I'm hoping this gets around. I'm kind of hoping this is 6 to 8 episodes.
Yeah,
now.
6 would be fine.
Yeah, and I'm the one kind of like the one kill per episode thing. It's kind of a nice, in a way, kind of a nice callback and inspiration. The 10 Little Indians. Vibe from
1 or 2 kills an episode is cool with me.
Yeah.
And then I think you do the second season. You do kind of the rise of Jason
coming to the fore,
and then I think you haven't put the mask on at the end.
Yeah.
I think you end season 2. You end season 2, or he gets the hockey mask in the finale of season 2, and then season 3 is like prime Jason, and he's finally thwarted by
Tommy Jarvis
at the end.
So you think they kind of combine 3 and 4 a lot?
Yes,
for season 3. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
and then we finally get Roy in season 4.
That's the hope. Is the show's a smash hit, and they bring the Roy.
That was the end of the interview. I'm kind of excited for it now. Sure. Now that we've talked this through.
Yeah. Once you talk about it, it gets exciting.
Yeah.
For sure.
So we'll be on the lookout, and we will be covering further developments because we promised we would. So we will talk about this every step of the way. There doesn't seem to be a date on this, right?
No.
Let's fast track this, Peacock. You gotta get it moving here.
Let's go. Tim and I need to do a spin-off show just to cover this Crystal Lake show.
The only worry, like, there's part of me that looks at some of what he says and says, this looks too interesting for Friday the 13th. Like a lot of this. Because then the problem you run into is maybe something like Halloween Ends, which
we're about to talk about.
We are about to talk about.
Yeah.
We watched this. So this is about a month ago. I watched this for the first time.
We've already reviewed this for the podcast. Talked about it for the podcast.
No, actually, we didn't.
Didn't we discuss this a little bit?
We did Hellraiser.
Yeah.
We did Werewolf by Night.
We
did Smile, and then we said we were going to come back.
Yeah,
and do a whole episode.
There we go.
But
we're doing part of an episode.
It's been a month
Ends.
Since we watched this.
The concluding chapter in the David Gordon Green trilogy.
Everybody has moved on.
Yep, no one gives a shit about what we're talking about right now.
That's why I wanted to save it for the end, because everybody's sick of being yelled at for their opinion one side of
I'll be honest with you. I have plenty to say, but I'm going to sum it up in kind of one major statement here. That's where I want to. So many opinions have been thrown out there. Like there's something I want to say about Halloween Ends. I get why people don't like it. I won't even go as far as to say I really liked it completely. I think I liked it more than most. But there's a tendency in fan bases when something does not measure up to the quality that they're hoping for.
Yeah.
For any reason. I'm not trying to downplay people's opinions on this. I get it. I'm with you. Where you find one aspect of the thing you didn't like to cling on to, and that becomes your sole source of hatred towards the thing as a whole. Example, Jar Jar Binks in the prequel movies, particularly The Phantom Menace.
Right.
Jar Jar Binks sucks, okay?
Yeah, he's a bad character.
Yeah, he's bad. But is he the biggest issue with those prequel movies?
No.
No. But what do people always bring up first when they're talking shit about the prequel movies? Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
Because you need that thing to link onto. With this movie, it's Corey. Just going to throw it out there. I am. Do I have issues with the Corey character? Yes. Do I think it always lands? No. However, do I think the idea in and of itself of the concept of this Corey character and what he does in this movie and this evolution of evil and the fact that this evil persists throughout Haddonfield and it just changes shape and it's never going to truly leave Haddonfield because Haddonfield is kind of a broken place. I love all of that. All of it.
Right.
The execution isn't always perfect. But I think the performance is good. I think it's mostly believable. I don't always buy, as we were talking about before, the Allison relationship completely. I think that's a little bit fast-tracked just to try and get there.
I also think you have to keep a movie like this. This is one of the sacrifices. You've got to keep it moving, especially a movie that's taking... that's going a different route this.
It is as kill light as this movie is.
You can't
up until
because
this is the opposite of Kills.
Yeah, because as like Alan touched on in his email, like it does. There was a point where I'm sitting there going, even I, who kind of knew Corey was coming in some ways.
Yeah,
like I was sitting there going, like, hey, I get it. Can we move on? Can somebody kill somebody?
Yeah. If you wanted to remake Christine, you just fucking remake Christine.
Yeah.
But
does it surprise you that John Carpenter was a fan of this movie, by the way?
That he was?
Yeah, he came out, he said he liked it.
No, I think this doesn't surprise me.
No, that doesn't surprise me because this seems like a movie John Carpenter had been trying to make for a while in some ways. Yeah.
Kills does not seem like a Carpenter movie to me.
No, not
it seems like he thought it was funny. But actually 2018 seems less like a Carpenter movie. This feels most Carpenter to me out of any of the...
I would agree, especially with what it's saying. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Mm-hmm. We still get Rob Zombie level gore here and there, and certainly not like Kills, but Kills is
my favorite of the trilogy.
It's something special. But I hope people, anybody who's still listening or gives a shit at this point about this movie, I just hope you'll if you don't like it, you don't like it, and I'm not going to sit here and try and make arguments for it. But like, I don't think the Corey thing is the issue. I think that's actually a pretty strong idea. I I think my big thing for me is the ending falls apart.
So you don't like the ending?
No,
I
it
like
sucks.
the ending. Yeah.
I don't. I don't. It's not.
Well,
like,
what are we talking about with the ending?
Yeah. Here. They spend. This movie moves very slowly for a Halloween film, and it spends an insane amount of time for a concluding chapter in a trilogy. It spends an insane amount of time with a character that's introduced in like the opening seconds of this movie. An insane, like most of the movie is spent with Corey, and that's fine. I actually don't have an issue with that. Because of the separation of time between the first two movies and this movie, I think it actually kind of works. Like, we're being reintroduced to the world through him.
Right.
The problem is, they do all this, and then at the end, Michael Myers just shows up and kills Corey, and we get the finale to the first two movies, and we get no resolution of the movie that's been building to this point. And ends.
I touched on this.
Ends
a little bit,
gets no resolution as far as like what it's trying to do. Like there's no. It sets up all these ideas about the idea of evil evolving or evil carrying on or change. Even Laurie says it. It doesn't die; it just changes shape. But that the movie doesn't do anything with that.
Yeah, Corey's dead.
No. Yes.
So, what was the original ending you were talking about a little?
My understanding, and I'm taking this off of test screenings I heard about and stuff. So it might not be 100% right. I'm just giving you what I've heard. The finale is largely the same. Corey shows up at Laurie's house, attacks Laurie. Laurie is actually being choked by Corey at this point. Allison comes back to the house because she's left, because she's angry at Laurie at this point in the movie. Comes back to the house, runs up the stairs, sees Corey choking Laurie, shoots Corey. He falls off the back of the balcony and lands just like Michael Myers did in the original 78 movie. Okay? And he's laying there. Then the real Michael Myers shows up. All the craziness happens. Laurie defeats him like in the finished film. They drag him out to... I think there's various versions of this in the script that were shot. There's the garbage compactor thing that they went with, which is hilarious. There's a version where they actually... draw and quarter him, where they tie a rope around his appendages and drive cars in various directions. And then there's apparently a version where they just burn the body on a cross, like they literally crucify him, which might have been too much for audiences. But it doesn't matter. They get back to the house, Allison and Laurie, and Corey's body is gone. And then you cut over the same shots from the original movie where you're seeing various scenery from this movie, so various set, and you're hearing the breathing. That, to me, works.
And I don't recall that in the novelization, so they may have...
That, to me, works way better. It's a natural conclusion, and I'm not one who likes to do this whole, like, the alternate ending would have been better. Like, I don't like to do that just because... I think some people like to do that just because it's different. I legitimately think that if that is how things were intended, I think that's a more satisfying ending for me. I think it brings the whole thing full circle.
Yes.
I think it actually ties together the themes that the movie's trying to do, trying to convey with the Corey stuff. I think it does justice to what you've just spent an hour and a half watching. And yes, the ending of the finished film is satisfying in the sense that we get to see Laurie in a good place at the end, and that's great. And I think that's cool, and I like to see all that stuff.
But you still could have done that.
You still could have done all that.
Yeah.
My thing is, this was not Laurie's movie at all.
Well, even the thing is, like, I think that actually works better, what you said. Because it recognizes, that ending works better because it recognizes that, like, all this bad stuff is going to be there. All this evil is going to permeate throughout Haddonfield, the country, whatever you want to... Because, I mean, that's what it's saying. And it's Laurie finally... I don't want to say giving up, but finally recognizing that she can't control everything.
Well, she's closed the book on her on her struggle, but she can't stick around. The next generation is going to have to figure out how to deal with the next thing because she can't do it forever.
Yes,
and I like that.
And we've already seen Laurie, and I do like. It doesn't let Laurie off the hook in this movie either. And I liked that because I wanted, because she is she's in the wrong. a lot of the times in this trilogy. So I like that it didn't let her character off the hook in this movie either.
Yeah.
But there is, I like that ending better, is what I was trying to say.
I agree.
Yeah. So Corey. What was I going to say? I think the movie overdoes it a little bit with kind of the sad sack Corey stuff. I do. I think he feels...
Him getting beat up by high schoolers is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. He's like a 20-some-year-old man.
I've known some 20-something-year-old men who might get beat up by high school.
Yeah, but this guy doesn't seem... I don't know. Yeah. Does he seem... The actor doesn't... For me, the actor, I look at him and I don't find it believable. I just don't. I go, this guy'd be... Even if he was antisocial or a little bit of a shut-in, he would still... I mean, he'd go
Well, he
away.
does... Yeah, he does... decide that he's going to start killing people. So he can handle himself, is what you're saying. He can handle himself against these high school kids.
It's very funny.
It is super funny. But it also, there are parts of him that kind of feel like they're from a Rob Zombie movie, especially the mother.
This whole trilogy's had some surprisingly Rob Zombie-esque influences.
Yeah. And I think some of them might be Danny McBride as well. There's a Lori line in this movie that feels like Danny McBride wrote it specifically for, like
the one about
you gotta rip open your shirt and show your tits to
yeah.
Like that felt like it was straight out of Eastbound and Down.
Yes.
But I think because the movie condenses a lot of the Corey stuff, like it goes for this weird like kind of Twin Peaks vibe where he the dude from like Twin Peaks.
Yes, I agree.
It kind of condenses it in, and it also has to. The dialogue does a lot of heavy lifting, and it's very heavy-handed at times.
Yeah.
And there are some cheesy shots that are very on the nose. But I don't know, like the shot with him in the hedges.
Yeah.
He just like shows up. But all this stuff I'm saying, and like, I don't know, I still kind of like this has become, I think in some ways, the most interesting slasher trilogy out there. Actually, it's not even in some ways. I think this is the most interesting to dissect slasher
I
trilogy.
don't disagree. I think there is a through line.
And when I go through and I read those Halloween books about the, I think it's Dustin McNeil is the author, about, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but you know what I'm talking about, the unmade Halloween movies. And I go through and read those, and there's like...
Taking Shape.
Thank you.
Yep.
And there's all those scripts that are about like evil coming to life. And
this kind of does it.
All these wacky Halloween ideas,
Yeah.
and I'm like, man, I really wanted to see those. And then I finally get one that does it, and I feel mixed, and I kind of feel bad about it. But like, at least it's interesting.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. It's more interesting than the other two in the trilogy, at least. Even if you don't like it as much, I think there's more interesting stuff happening here.
Yeah.
I will disagree a little bit with Alan's feedback, and no shade at Alan. I do think that they don't like blatantly establish it necessarily. They don't outwardly say it in Kills, but I do think that they definitely infer that there's something more to Michael Myers than just being a man in Kills.
Yes.
And I do think that they infer that the more he kills, the more he is like superpowered, because like he goes in like that crazy killing spree at the end. That's so insanely unbelievable that anybody could pull off, especially after being beaten with like...
I think they make it pretty obvious here that he's transferring the scene in the sewer. The other thing
he's like spent at the end of Kills, or he's spent by the end of Ends. Like he can't, his energy is drained, and then he kills the hobo, and he kind of like... And
he's transferred... the hobo, I believe, in the novelization is a guy that was in the sanitarium with Michael.
Oh, okay.
By the way, he's been like... Michael is kind of like... controlling him in some ways.
Oh.
The evil it rocks. But anyway, I think they make it pretty explicit that he's in that sewer. He transfers his power over to Corey in that sewer. I mean, they're not gonna like spell it out more than they do. I think
if you did spell it out any more than you did, it would be, you'd start having to explain it.
It would take scenes of
you'd start doing Cult of Thorn stuff.
It would take scenes of other characters being introduced to explain what's... Yeah, I would love it, but also like I'm with you. He's transferred his energy over to Corey, and by the end of the movie, he's spent because he doesn't have whatever superpowers he has and kills. That's how I took it, yeah.
But that's, once again, why I think that ending that we talked about, that apparently was the ending that was planned, works better, because even if you're going with that logic, that he's somehow given his power, his whatever, over to Corey would be able to get up from the... Like, that would be the...
Yep. And Michael wouldn't not be able to get up from what... So the thing, too, I wanted to touch on is...
It's like the most twisted passing of the torch, you know?
Yep. And I guarantee you, test audiences did not like that.
Right.
Because all audiences kind of...
They wanted the Michael and Laurie... They didn't give a shit about Corey. They wanted the Michael and Laurie finale, which is really funny to me, because I think you still would have got it. You still got it. Yeah. But also, like... We got it with H2O, like...
I'm going to stick up for test audiences a little bit here, because I don't like the idea of them more than like the audiences themselves, because you're asking people like directly out of seeing a movie what they think of what they just watched. Yeah. So you do not have time to process what you just watched.
Yes.
So a lot of people like me, especially going in blind, because even like I said, I kind of knew the Corey stuff was coming, but even I, halfway through, I'm like, man, this is a lot of Corey. And I think a lot of the negative reaction to this isn't so much to what's in the movie, but the marketing of the movie as well.
Yeah.
Because the marketing was based around Laurie versus Michael. And when you do that, and then all of a sudden this character who is not in the trailers at all shows up, and he's dominating the movie, I understand people going...
It's kind of insane they were able to market it the way they were.
Yeah, I understand people going like, what the hell? Because it's a bait and switch.
What am I watching?
It's a bait and switch, and they did it, and it kind of worked for them in some ways. It backfired a little bit. It still made $100 million, I think, at the box office, so they're doing fine. But I can see why general audiences, or just audiences in general, I guess that was weird, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like recoil and go like, what the hell? Like, where's Michael Myers at?
I get it.
And so with test audiences,
the same way they did back when Halloween 3 happened.
Yeah. So with test audiences too, like they are going in blind to this movie, and they're sitting there going like, where the hell is Michael Myers? Like, this is a Halloween movie.
Right.
Like, it's tough to do that. And then, like, you ask them, like, what'd you think of that? The first thing, of course, they're going to say,
where's Michael Myers?
I hated the ending. I just, like, where's Michael Myers? So, I kind of get it.
Yeah.
Like, I do get it.
No, I understand it for sure. I do. But that maybe, I think that's more a fault of... and you kind of inferred this, too. Like, that's more a fault of the test audience process, I think, than anything else. Like, literally, you give these people no time to even, like, think about what they've seen. If you had asked me 2 minutes after the credits rolled on Ends, I would be like, I don't know, it kind of sucked. Then I, like, thought more about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not a contrarian type guy. I'm not trying to be contrarian. I like what I like.
Right.
And, like, the more I thought about it, the more I went, actually, it was kind of sweet. But, like, I had issues. You know, my issues were not... Clearly, not what they were. Different issues. After I had 24 hours to like think about what I watched, I went, okay, I actually quite like certain things about this. But I never walked away going like, Corey's the worst. He sucks. That whole thing sucks. Why did they do that? That's not how I felt ever at any point. Maybe it was softened by the fact that I knew that there was a Corey thing going on, going into it. I didn't know all the details, but I knew there was another killer, and I knew his name was Corey.
Yep.
That's what I knew.
Yeah.
So I at least had that softened. But you know, I've always had a soft spot, as you have, for
Roy.
For like oddball like entries in these franchises, like things like Friday the 13th Part 5, or Halloween 3, or Halloween 6, or
Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I think.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed the oddball ones.
Yep.
And the older I've got. The older I've gotten, like, the more I tend to find enjoyment in those. Sometimes even more than like the mainline stuff. When I was a little bit younger and maybe a little less patient when it came to deviating from stuff, I remember rejecting Halloween 3 the first time I saw it. As a kid, I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And then, like in my teen years, I went, "This is sweet. This movie rules," because you just start to kind of.
It's also it is also getting older and just like accepting things that exist.
Yeah.
And also finding like joy in them.
I can't stop this from existing. Like maybe there's something to enjoy here. Yes.
It's part of being a fan of a franchise.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
recognizing,
You're a Bond fan. God knows you've been through it.
Yeah, but that's part of the fun of it. And that's why sometimes I don't want to go down the whole fandom route. But I do kind of roll my eyes at some people being referred to as fans, and I'm like, are they fans? Because fans don't have to like everything, but fans accept things. Like true fans of we're Friday the 13th fans. We're not fans of Jason Goes to Hell. We accept Jason Goes to Hell. Yes.
I don't like it.
It exists.
But it's part of the franchise, and that's fine.
I like it.
I don't need to watch it a bunch.
Yeah,
I'm good.
So,
but you're right. There is an element of you wonder sometimes with fan bases. Things like Scream is a good example. I've seen a lot of since the last Scream came out, and Scream has kind of come back into the conversation.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of hey, the only good Scream was the original, and I'm like, well then why why are you discussing Scream?
So you're not a fan of Scream,
the franchise. You like that movie,
first movie, which is fine.
Great.
Yeah, but don't.
That's fine. But why are you on a Scream? Why are you on Reddit talking about Scream?
Right.
Why are you here? I guess I just don't like. There's I like the Lost Boys, the movie. I fucking think those sequels are trash.
Yes.
So I don't go on Lost Boys fan forums and discuss the Lost Boys
and start
franchise.
trashing the sequels.
Why do I don't give a fuck.
You ignore them and you start talking about the Lost Boys movie and what you want to see.
If I talk about it, I talk about that first movie. I guess that's just I just don't get it. I don't know. Whatever.
So I had just two more questions. Laurie and Allison in this movie. I think we've covered Michael and Corey enough, right?
Yeah, I think
What do you think of Laurie and Allison in this movie? We've also covered Laurie a little bit.
They're fine. I mean,
we haven't talked about Allison much, but
Allison's all right. I don't have an issue with her. I mean, she kind of feels like she's kind of floating through this movie most of the time.
Yeah, and I think some of that is on purpose because that's kind of where she's at in life.
Yeah, I get that.
The puppy love thing, that's kind of some of my issue with the middle portion of this movie is they don't feel like they're in their 20s. They're grown adults. Act like adults.
There's a little bit of that. I mean, I can accept a little bit of it because I could see how somebody is emotionally stunted by the shit they went through.
There's a little
teenagers.
Bit of arrested development with these two as well.
And I think that's where the bonding comes from a little bit. And I like that, I guess, but it doesn't really get explored enough, and I don't really need it to be. Yeah. Once again, we need to move here. I don't need I don't need a ton more Corey and Allison, the romance. There's enough that I could infer there, I guess, from them. But I don't disagree. They are acting like little kids, like 16 years old, even though,
With these two characters, and the novelization does this a little bit better than the movie. We talked about this, but this is, once again, you've got to make cuts here. You can't have two prologues. I felt like we needed a prologue, seeing to see what Allison and Laurie had been up to the last
I agree.
4 years.
It's missing.
Yep.
And I think we could have cut some of the middle stuff where we start treading water with the same thematic stuff with Corey. I don't need to see Corey's mom be a complete piece of shit to him 14 times.
Yes.
I could see it once or twice and I'm good. I've got that.
Yep.
There's a lot of retreading the same ground with that stuff with him, almost trying to overly hammer it home where he's headed.
Yep.
Where you don't need all of that.
I do need to see his stepdad watch Hard Target, though.
Well, yeah.
And then Laurie, I mean, it ends. I like this stuff. I love Will Patton, and I like the relationship between those two.
I always wish he was in it a little bit more.
Me too.
I miss him a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Me too.
Because he's not in Kills a ton either, but he's present in Kills enough to make it no more. This one, he's barely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I miss him a little bit, but I love Will Patton.
Yes. And the last thing I wanted to ask you is, where do you want to see this go? Where do you want to see Halloween go from here?
I don't know. It needs to rest for a little bit.
I kind of think so too.
I think it's time to take some time off. I mean, and that's fine. That's a good thing.
Do you want a continuation with Allison?
No.
Or do you want
no, this needs to be done.
Okay.
It's time to move on from this, I think. I don't want any more set in the David Gordon Green universe. This just seems like a fine place to... And it's no shade on his stuff. I just don't... I don't need to see
it feels like the natural
This is done. And,
yep.
And in the same way that Zombies felt done to me at the end of his Cole movies, I was okay, we're good.
Yep.
We can move on. I don't know, Tim. I can tell you this. I don't want to see another remake of Halloween.
Me neither.
I really don't. If that's what we're doing, I for the first time ever in the franchise, if that's what we're doing, I have like no interest in seeing that. I just don't. I don't care. I'm not saying I'll never watch it. I just don't have any interest in seeing it. But then I guess,
do you want to see him finally go the anthology route? Like they had always planned.
It's an option, but I think that'll be rejected too.
I don't think that's. I've seen some people. Halloween 3 is still a cult in some ways, like a cult following.
It is not. No,
it's not what they're going to do, and it's not what they should do if they want to make money.
No, I don't know what I don't know what you do.
I'm with you.
You cannot remake that first movie again. That's just, to me, that's craziness. But then I feel like if they're going to do a Michael Myers story,
what do you do?
What do you do with it then? Because then if you don't remake the first movie, then you're not doing an origin story for the Michael Myers character. Then you're just doing a generic slasher movie with random characters and Michael Myers in it.
Yep.
And that's fine, I guess. But I don't think they're going to want to do that. The series has never tried to be just a generic. Even at its lowest points, it's always tried to do something different.
I wonder if they go like the TV route, like a streaming series route. But once again, I don't know what you do.
I have no idea what to do with this franchise at this point. I just don't know.
No.
I feel like we've milked about every avenue we can take with this stuff.
You need a break.
It needs a break.
And then, honestly, if you want to revisit, I'm not saying I want to see a remake, but down the road, if you can find a way to freshen it up for the time that it's made,
I would do a completely new take on... Do a new Michael Myers origin. You can even keep it as simple as like he murdered his sister. But do something totally different. Instead of having him break out of the asylum and go after Laurie and her friends again, I don't even want Laurie to be a part of it. Exactly. The Laurie character shouldn't even exist in this continuity.
Yep.
That story's done, but you could still follow a young Loomis tracking him down.
Right. The Laurie stuff is done. I'm with you. Please. That's where, you know what? If you want to continue Michael Myers, fine, whatever. The Laurie stuff
needs to be done.
Done for me.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm with you. The Allison is a part of that. I can see where they might continue on with her character, but I'm with you. Let's do something
different.
Yep.
I think you could do a really cool story, like I said, about a young Loomis trying to manhunt Michael Myers. Like, from his perspective almost, of like, I think that'd be cool. You could do that. I think you could do a movie where it's Loomis trailing Myers and trying to get people to believe him about the danger, trying to get to Haddonfield before Myers does, and like following Loomis as he's like just catching up to Myers and like the body trail he's leaving in his wake on his way back to Haddonfield. And then you have the big finale with Myers showing up in Haddonfield and the final like showdown. Don't even necessarily make like the Haddonfield teenagers a main part of the movie. Like, I don't know. I'd like a Loomis focused movie, I think, is what we never had that really.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Some have pointed out, rightfully so, that Loomis is a terrible doctor.
Awful. Terrible.
Nobody tries to help him at all. It just starts screaming.
He's evil.
Last thing I want to say about this trilogy is I do have to. I got to respect what Blumhouse did with this thing. They let David Gordon Green do
whatever he wanted.
What he wanted, and I don't necessarily respect the way they advertised this one in some ways. Like I said, I thought it felt like a bait and switch.
Yeah.
And I think that led to a lot of the reaction.
And understandably.
I understand why they did it, but I also am not crazy about it. But also, man, like, they did it. Like, they said they were going to let him do his thing, and he did his thing. And
Yep.
For someone to take a franchise like this and make a trilogy as interesting and as kind of fun to dissect as they did, I have to give them credit for that.
Yeah,
so.
I agree.
All right. Is that it on Halloween Ends?
That's it, man.
What do you want to do next time?
I don't know.
So it's going to be our Thanksgiving episode. I had an idea for a bracket. Do you want me to run it by you now or off air?
Sure.
Now?
Yeah.
I want to do a bracket where we take a look at a bunch of entries, like specific entries in franchises. So, like, second entries. We do Nightmare on Elm Street 2 versus Friday the 13th Part 2 or Hellraiser 2. And we do like that, like a sequel bracket, but we just focus specifically on the second movies in those franchises. Or we could do the third movies in those franchises.
Oh.
And we match them up and we figure out which is like the second or third, like the best entries in those franchises.
I'm cool with that.
You want to do that?
Sure.
Which one entry you want to do? 2, 3, or
I don't know.
2, 3, or 4 is what I was. Should we just start with 2?
Sure.
And then we can do 3 and 4?
Yeah, later down the road or whatever. Yeah, or yeah, whenever.
Okay, let's do that.
Do 2s.
Yeah, we'll celebrate Thanksgiving some other time.
Yeah, whatever.
Since Twitter is dying, join us, our Patreon. You can get access to our Discord where you can talk to us. Because
you can email us, horrormovieyearbook@gmail.com.
Yep. Facebook.
We're barely on Facebook, but we're there.
Facebook. I'm on Instagram mostly. At our Instagram mostly nowadays.
Instagram's cool.
Yeah, Instagram's fine. And so I'm on there mostly.
Yeah.
So hit us up, or just join our Discord by joining our Patreon for $1.
Yeah, do it.
Patreon.com/MidwestPodNet. All right, we'll be back next time. Thank you, everybody, for listening.